I was going to continue speaking about how the Sfirot and all the Midot manifest themselves and how we need to focus on them in the Shemona Esrei. But then a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. To be very honest with you, I got very sick 3 weeks ago. I didn't eat for 3 days. And I was in bed, and when I came out of bed, my legs were swollen up with cellulitis. And it's basically been a jousting with cellulitis and corona, back and forth and back and forth. I had spoken to our dear friends who run Alshech, and I said I wanted to speak about the origin of the current illness that so many of us are currently facing. But I think I want to today precede that with a hakdama, with an introduction as to what illness is, what messengers are, and what we can learn from it all, and how we can apply it to our own lives. So today's class is entitled The Specificity of Messengers. And we're going to talk about two messengers. One are the messengers that bring illness and healing. And then there's the other messenger. The messenger who goes by many names. The Yetzer Hara, the Samech Mem, the Malach HaMaves, the Satan. And we're actually going to learn a Gemara that says that this messenger has 7 names to him. I say him specifically because the nature of illness is that which is aggressive, that which is male, that which is potentially evil and needs to be subjugated. The animal needs to be corralled. That's not the way woman is. Women by nature are good and giving and nurturing. So it is indeed a him, the other one that we're going to talk about. We don't have that much time, so we'll get right to the issue. I'm going to learn with you a Gemara in Avodah Zarah. And the Gemara says as follows. When illness or suffering is decreed or sent upon a person, it is sent by an angel, or a group of angels, actually, from what the Gemara seems to be saying. And an oath is administered upon those angels, those divine messengers, and they're given the following task. Do not go and afflict this person who it's decreed should have an illness upon them until such and such a day. And don't leave him until a certain day, a certain hour, by the aegis of a certain doctor or messenger, and using a certain drug. In other words, all that we go through in terms of affliction and illness is all predetermined, min hashamayim. It has a specific duration to it, and then it's over. And when the time comes for these malachim to leave, when they finish their tasks, says the Gemara, the sick person would then go to his temple of Avodah Zarah. And the messengers said to themselves, Shouldn't we go back and make him suffer more since he's relieved of his illness, but now he's involved in a terrible sin? But then they change their minds and say, oh no, because this person is a fool, should we lose the chance to fulfill our oath? Because that's the purpose of a messenger. A messenger is supposed to accomplish exactly why he's in this world. As Rav Yochanan explains the verse, and it's very interesting because we quote this verse in Nishmat Kol Chai every Erev Shabbat, every Shabbat in the daytime, I should say. What did we say? It quotes from the Tochacha, and it says, Chalayim, Merayim, V'ne'amanim, that Hashem sends upon us illnesses that are evil, but faithful. Very strange. How can an illness be faithful? But now that we've learned this Gemara, we can have a little different perspective on it. As the Gemara says, the shlichus is evil, the illness is evil, but the fulfillment of the oath is faithful, because it's all guided by Hashem. Now, isn't it interesting? We know that, we've quoted this Gemara many times, Hakol bidei shamayim, chutz meitzinim v'pachin, that everything is predetermined with the exception of cold pathogens, meaning viruses, and pachim, bacterial infections, heat infections. So it seems now that there's a contradiction. On the one hand, we see there are shlichim, there are messengers that are specifically assigned the mission of sending illness for a specific duration. And yet we see that another Gemara says that illness is in our hands, it's not in Hashem's hands. And the truth is that they're both accurate and specific. And I'll ask you another question before I answer the apparent difficulty there. How could it be that if an illness has a specific duration and is predetermined, what good does it do for us to daven?
That's a great question.
If it's all predetermined, then we have to go through. No. Because Hashem created us, and this is the whole theme of the Torah of the Galil, specifically Tzfat. There are two gradations in which Hashem runs the world. There is the world which runs according to nature, and there is the world that Hashem wants us to step into, to climb the steps upward, the golden steps upward to the world of Nes, the world where we merge into Gan Eden and where we can change things. Because the truth is, if we allow ourselves to function based on nature, and we go to a doctor and we take a medicine, and we're doing everything very quite mechanically, Hashem says, fine. You want your life to run by nature? Then you'll live like all the animals that were created in the creation of the world. But I want you, my child, my human being, my beloved, to know that I'm part of this world. I'm going to send you messengers every once in a while when you, for whatever reason, need to go through a certain crisis, to go through a certain challenge. I'm going to send these messengers. That's their job. Your job is to look within. There's a Gemara in Brachos that says that if a person suffers pain, they need to introspect into how they're living their lives, what they've done, what changes they can make. They should think about that each day might be the last day of their life potentially. We need to return. We need to return to Ima. Ima is tshuva. And yes, when we return to Hashem and we return to where we need to be, we can change anything. And so yes, we daven for someone and we daven for ourselves because that's what Hashem wants us to do. Hashem wants us to rise above the everyday. He wants us to rise above nature. He wants us to get close to Him. He wants us, when He calls to us, Hashem Moshiach, HaMelech Yanenu B'Yam Kareinu. He answers us when we call Him. Karov Hashem l'chol karav, l'chol asher yukru b'emes. He calls us and we answer Him. We call Him and He answers us. We love each other. And so yes, we can live as an automaton. We can live like an animal. We can go through our 70 or so odd years and then have life over. And yes, there'll be plenty of shlichim along the way, angels and otherwise. But we have to recognize they're all sent from Hashem. And it's our responsibility as B'nai B'chori Yisrael, as Hashem's beloved firstborn, to rise above and reach toward Hashem, who's waiting for us to come home to Him. There's a very interesting Gemara that says that on Shabbat, one who is sick is not allowed to cry, and the Chachamim reluctantly allow someone to visit a sick person on Shabbos. Why reluctantly? Because the Torah recognizes the power of tefillah. If we daven for someone, Hashem knows we'll be successful and we'll ruin our Shabbos. Because we'll be crying, we'll be sad. Shabbos is a time of bliss. So the Gemara says on that, Shabbos hi melizak, takes a play on words in the word Shabbat. Stop, Shabbos means stopping. Shabbat hi melizak. Do not cry out, either the sick person or somebody for him. Urafura krova lavoy. And the remedy will come quickly. There are many different explanations of that, but I want to share with you a very interesting one that Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan. He says that the essence of Shabbat is da'at. That a person, not only do they get an extra neshama, but they have a greater breadth of awareness of Hashem. And therefore, with that da'at that a person has, if a person will have the wisdom to recognize that he's in a different place, then even though he's suffering, even though he's sick, if he davens for someone else who is quite sick, maybe sicker than he is, the Gemara says that if I daven for someone who needs a refuah that I need, I'll be answered first for myself. So on Shabbat, if I don't complain, but rather I daven for someone else, refuah krova lavo, the refuah will come quickly because of that get on Shabbat. So that's the first messenger that we want to talk about today. The messenger that is sent to bring about itself a reminder, really from Hashem, that we need to recognize that illness is a shlichut. But we also need to overcome our natural tendency to just suffer and just go through the mechanical means of going to a doctor and taking a medicine and knowing that that's the end of it. And that we'll keep going to doctors and medicines until the time comes when the angel's time is up and this particular messenger will be successful and will get well. That's not what Hashem wants. So that's the first shlichut. But I'm going to tell you about another shlichut, which is, I think, more profound and relates to all of us quite dramatically. The Gemara in Sukkah tells us about our friend, not our friend at all, really, the Yetzer Hara, the Samach Mem, the Malach HaMavet, the Sitra Achra, the other one, the other side. And the Gemara in Sukkah says as follows. Darash Rav Avira, V'ilema Rav Yeshua Belevi. Rav Avira says, some people say it's Rav Yeshua Belevi who says, Shiva Shemos Yesh Li Yetzer Hara. There are 7 names that the Yetzer Hara has. And it goes through all kinds of different ones. Ra, Arel, Yoel Hanavi Korah Tzfani. The prophet Yoel says that one of the names of the Yetzer Hara is Tzfani. He is a big phony. Shenemar.
Tzfani, what does it mean exactly?
That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Think about the word tzafoni, take it apart, and you'll have a couple of clues. Let's try right now. So where do you see the word, where have you seen the word tzafon, or tzafun, or tzafon, anything like that?
Well, it's similar to Tzfat.
It's similar to Tzfat, very good. And Tzfat is in what direction of Eretz Israel?
North.
And what's the word for north?
Tzafon.
Tzafon. So that's one of the meanings. Where else do we have the word tzafon or tzafun? We just 3 weeks ago left Mitzrayim. We had in Parshat Bo we left Mitzrayim, and that's our sneak preview for what's going to come up in a couple of months. And on the night of the Seder, we have various stops along the way before we actually have our Geula. And after we finish our meal, we also have a stop which is called Tzafun.
Oh, yeah.
What does it mean? Afikoymen. And we also have the term Tzipuyim, expectations. All the same word. What's going on? And what does it have to do, what does the Seder night have to do with the Yetzer Hara? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So Yoel quotes, says as follows, V'et hatzfoni archik me'alechem. And the one who is hidden, because tzafon, the afikomen is hidden. That's why it's called tzafon. Tzafon means hidden. The one who is hidden, I will distance myself from him. As it says, at tzfoni archik me'aleim, ze Yetzer Hara. This is referring to the Yetzer Hara. Shet tzafon, that is anticipating, the omed, and is standing, belibo shel adam, in the heart of each of us. So, let's talk about these different meanings of tzafon and what they have to do with the Yetzer Hara. The first meaning, as we said in the Gemara, the obvious meaning, the simple meaning, is that which is hidden. Unknown. If you look at the name of Hashem, Yud, He, Vav, He, those 4 letters refer to what we call 4 aspects or partsufim of Hashem. 2 of them are hidden, and 2 of them are revealed. And they are all found in that which attaches us to Hashem more than anything else, mitzvah. And those 4 letters are Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And it corresponds to Mem, Tzadik, Vav, Hey. The Mem and the Tzadik and the Yud and the Hey both refer to Abba and Ima. Abba is what we're learning about in Tomer Devorah right now. Abba is Chochmah. Chochmah is the source of what powers us, keeps us alive. It's the place that all the life force comes from. That is the Yud. Yud refers to Abba. And as we said a few weeks back, the little tiny point at the end of the Yud refers to that which connects the Ein Sof, the light which is infinite, to this world, and that's Keter. That's the little pitzel of the Yud. But the Yud itself is Hashem in all of His glory and power, giving to us and then distributing His great power and love and warmth throughout all the different sefirot till it reaches us. The other side, as it said, Abba and Ima, Yud and Hey, are called Trei Reyin de la Mispar Sheminei. They are two inseparable friends. They're two lovers. Yud refers to Abba, and Hey refers to Ima. And Ima is the power that Hashem is constantly calling us in and telling us, as we'll learn about it when we get to Torah Devorah, when we get to the second of the Sefirot, which is Bina. Hashem is saying, please come home to me. I want you to return home. I want you to do tshuva. And those two parts, the giving of Hashem and the calling us to come home of Hashem, are the two inseparable neighbors. And they're what's referred to as the two parts of the brain, but they're very hidden. And those two hidden parts of Hashem are referred to in the word mitzvah in a secret way. Mem, when you take the letters of the Aleph Beit backwards, so that Taf becomes Aleph, or Aleph becomes Taf, in Atbash. Yeah. Mem is Yud. And Tzadik is Hey. Wow. So the word mitzvah, the Mem Tzadik, is the hidden part of Hashem. It is the Moichin. It's that which is beyond our grasp, that which is hidden from us. What about the idea of north? The north, the Gemara says in Baba Basra, Amar Rav Yitzchak, one who wants to become smart should direct himself southward. One who wants to become rich should direct himself northward. What that means is we don't have time for that today, but it could mean the way where he davens, the direction he davens. It could be where he directs his heart. It could be where he lives. As a matter of fact, I'll take it even one step further. As we'll see in a minute, how our table is set up is significant. And the way to remember this is that in the Holy Mishkan, the Shulchan was in the north, and the menorah was in the south. And that's why, says Rabbi Yeshua Bar Levi, one should always direct oneself southward, because by making oneself smart, he will become rich. As it says, Orech Yamim B'Yamina V'Smola Osher B'Chovod, that wealth and honor come when one is smart. What I was referring to, pardon me. Here. What I was referring to is that it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, as a matter of fact, that one's candles should actually be on the right side, corresponding to the menorah, which is the south. And the table's in the north. So, if we look at the north and south of Eretz Yisrael, we have a clue to this. We have the north, which is shaped like a head, which is Tzafon. And the capital of Tzafon, begins with Tzaddik Tzfat. So that's the brain center. And that's where the neshama is located. And that's the tzaddik. Then we have the middle of Eretz Yisrael, which is shaped like a vav, and which is the capital of the middle of Eretz Yisrael is Yerushalayim. And that's the Yud. Tzaddik, Yud stands for Yesod. And then we have the animal part, the Gashmias part of Eretz Yisrael, which is shaped like a wide, like a belt, like the pelvis. And that's Ayin. And that refers to Arad, which is where, as I mentioned, where Sodom was overturned. Anyway, the point I want to make is that the north is the hidden part. It's the brain center. And it's where the potential of falling is as well. And that's what we're going to talk about in a minute. As we said, go back to that Gemara that we quoted a minute ago. The Yetzer Hara is called Tzfuni or Tzfoni. And why? Because he is the one who's anticipating. And how does it apply to us? The greatest mistake a person can make is to project, is to think that life is a sitcom, it's a movie, everything's going to work out, I'm going to come next week for sure. Like I have the control over what's going to be. And then when I'm not able to fulfill what I say I'm going to fulfill, what happens? I get depressed. And I fall into the Yetzer Hara's trap even worse by being depressed. The greatest mistake we can make is to live on what is going to be, to make plans and to have them all fall apart. Anticipation, expectation, planning, these are extremely dangerous. Hashem tells us every single day that we are alive, we have to look at as the only day that ever existed. This is the only shacharit I'm going to daven today. This is the only mincha I'm ever going to daven today. This is the only marav I'm going to daven. And this shacharit mincha marav that I'm going to daven today will change the world. What's going to happen tomorrow doesn't matter. Zeh hayom asa Hashem nagila v'nismecha bo. And because Hashem wants me to live for today, if things don't work out the way I want them to today, Hashem is warning us, don't do it because you'll fall into the trap of tzefoni, Mr. Anticipation. And you'll become crushed. You'll become depressed. And all of your plans will fall apart. Famous story that's told by the Tzanzer Rav about a widow who has an egg. And she has many poor children. And she thinks to herself, I'll put this egg under a chicken and it'll hatch and I'll get chicks. And then the chicks will grow and I'll have more chickens. And then I'll be able to sell the chickens and I'll be able to buy a cow. And then I'll become rich. And while she's thinking about all that she's going to have, she's playing with the egg and it falls and it crashes and everything falls apart. And we can't make resolutions about what's going to be because we are that poor widow. We need to listen to what Hashem gives us right now. He's our Tati. He wants us to be well. He wants us to be successful. And so the way to be successful is just to live with pure simplicity. Only for today. Today is all that matters. Not because live for today because tomorrow we die. But rather live today for today because today is the greatest gift we can ever have because all that matters is today. I'm going to conclude by asking you an amazing question. If we shouldn't anticipate the future, then how come we're given the mitzvah immediately after Pesach of Sfirat HaOmer? We are told that in 50 days after leaving Mitzrayim, we're going to receive the Torah on Shavuot. How could it be? We just said that the Yetzer Hara, the Sitra Achra, the Malach HaMovet, that which is trying to destroy us, is all about guessing and anticipating and predicting and hoping and having our hopes crushed. Yet we're told specifically, when it comes to the Torah, who says we're going to be worthy of getting the Torah? You know who tells us that? Hashem tells us that. We need to recognize that we are in a state when we leave Mitzrayim of what's called mochen de katnut. We are in a state of small-mindedness. We don't know what's good for us. We don't know what to expect. But Hashem, our loving Father, is telling us, do me a favor. Just do what I ask. I'm telling you to do it, therefore it's good for you. Because the word mitzvah means tzivtza v'kasher. Connect yourself to me. By counting, you're connecting yourself to me. And therefore, because you're connecting yourself to me, follow what my great messengers are having me do for you. Take one midah. Chesed shebechesed. Gebura shebechesed. Tiferet shebechesed. And so on and so forth. And work on refining yourself and prepare yourself the way I'm guiding you to. Don't let your imagination guide you, but follow my steps. Lech tech acharei bamidbar. Follow me. And I guarantee you, you'll refine yourself, you'll come to Matan Torah, you'll be whole and full, and you'll have totally decimated that which plays on your imagination and again brings us to becoming ill. And as I conclude today, we'll use this idea of how we need to live our lives in order to avoid illness, how to get well once we have illness, and the tremendous power of tzfoni, of anticipation, how it can destroy us. And that will be for next week, my friends.
Shukaya, beautiful. Thank you so much.
I hope I wasn't too long.
No?